Hi guys, it's Chill. Welcome back to the last part of What If Naruto Was Summoned to Fight Gaia. Hope you all enjoy. Naruto had woken up to the feeling of comfort. He had looked around to see himself in a large private room with a weapons rack and walk-in closet, but beside from the bed and desk the room was plain aside from the tall mirror standing in the corner. Naruto walked out the door dressed in his normal attire to see his cohort waiting for him in the hall. As he walked to the front he says, "Good morning everyone, since today is my first day leading you, I am going to give you the day to train in any way you see fit while I prepare a new training regime, as well as post new orders for monthly deliveries for new weapons in from the forge. Tomorrow be ready to train into the ground. Wake up earlier than you usually would, sweat and bleed from the training. I will make sure that by the time we're done, you all will have the recognition from the Legion that has been lost." The cohort saluted and began walking out. Only Hazel and Frank remained. Hazel spoke up and said, "You know, you never treated me to dinner, Captain, so I think it's only fair you treat me to breakfast." Naruto sighed but nodded nonetheless. Frank looked like he wanted to say something but was too nervous to say it. Naruto noticed Frank and said, "Frank, I may be the new captain, but we're still friends and comrades in arms. You don't need to be so formal with me, it makes me feel old." Hazel chuckled at him and said, "Yeah Frank, why don't you join us?" Naruto spying anyway. Naruto shot a glare towards her which she returned until he sighed in defeat and said, "Come on Frank, if there's one thing I've learned about women, is that if you them mad, then you should expect to spend the day in the hospital trying to reposition your face." Frank paled and soon followed them out towards an old-fashioned diner which made Naruto sweat drop. "Are you sure this is where you want to eat, Hazel? I may not have much but I can still pay for a decent meal." Hazel glared at him. "Are you questioning my taste in food, Mr. Ramen for breakfast, lunch, and dinner?" Naruto glared back, "Ramen is the food of the gods. Don't correct me about ambrosia or nectar." Hazel smirked at him and said, "I'm surprised you haven't made a shrine to the ramen god yet." Naruto froze, causing Hazel and Frank to look at him. They saw a Cheshire grin and a glimmer in his eye. "Don't even think." That was as far as she got when Naruto bolted out the door, leaving the two enough money for breakfast. Hazel sighed before turning to Frank with a sad look on her face, causing Frank to ask, "What's wrong, Hazel?" Hazel smiled at him and replied, "It's nothing." Frank walked up to her and said, "We're friends, Hazel, you can tell me." Hazel sighed, "I've been trying to get Naruto to go out with me for a while now. I've even left subtle hints I want to be more than just friends. I don't know if he's too stupid to see them, or he's too nice a guy to say he isn't interested." Frank smiled at her, "I'm betting on the first one." Hazel giggled at the joke, "Yeah, you're probably right. I may just need to come out and say it. From all the women chasing him he probably can't tell who wants to be his friend or who just wants to get in his pants." They both blushed at the comment before they went and sat at a table to eat. Naruto grumbled about not being allowed to build the shrine he wanted. They said it wasn't warlike, they even said it wasn't Roman. Kinda ironic the Romans shunned the Greeks when they stole practically everything from them, from architecture to religion. Naruto seen Hazel standing outside the 5th cohort's barracks, so Naruto decided to apologize for leaving her like that. "Hey Hazel, sorry I left you and Frank back at the diner, I got a little overexcited. Hazel shook her head, "It's fine Naruto. But I want you to take me out." Naruto sighed, seemingly finishing her sentence, "To make it up to you." Hazel giggled but shook her head, "No, I want you to take me out on a date." Naruto's eyes widen at her and ask, "Really? I haven't really been on a date before. I mean I took Reina out, but we were just getting food after a spa. Hazel smiled at him. It's okay Naruto, I understand, but I would at least like to go and get something to eat with you, without you running off to build a shrine to your self-placed ramen god. Naruto chuckled nervously before saying, I suppose, how does tonight at 6 sound? Hazel smiled and nodded before walking away to get ready. When Hazel disappeared behind the door to get ready, Naruto grew panicked. He ran to a secluded spot and took a seat to enter his mindscape. Upon entering the wide-open meadow, the Seven Tails, also known as Chomiya, was already waiting for him. Chomiya looked down at Naruto and said, Great idea coming to me for advice. Now, the first thing you should know is to not panic. If she really wants a date with you, then it's obvious that she doesn't want to know you sweat like Saiken in summer when you're nervous. Naruto wanted to be angry but hung his head in shame because he knew it was true. How do I go about this? I've already taken Reina out for dinner but I don't think she's too into me. Chomiya laughed slightly. If only you knew. Naruto raised an eyebrow, about to ask what she meant when Kurama walked up. Kid, don't put much thought into it, it's a date, you may not see it as one, but you took Reina on one and she enjoyed herself because you were honest with her, as well as kind and supportive. You were being you. So go back, take a shower, get dressed and act the way you did when talking to Reina. Talk to her about stuff she likes or dislikes, her favorite food and dessert, what she does in her spare time, that sort of thing. And if she asks about you, then tell her what you feel comfortable with. Naruto smiled at Kurama. Thanks Fuzz, but I never took you for the romantic type, but you give great advice. Kurama smirked. There's a lot you don't know about me, Kit, but Chomiya was right about you needing to keep calm. You do tend to sweat a lot when you're nervous. Naruto smiled at his partner and bowed to the other Baijuya before leaving. So what else are you hiding from us, Kurama? I thought we were family. Kurama shot a glare at his siblings. Shut up Shukaku, or I'll have Chomiya give you a bath. Shukaku gasped in shock. You wouldn't. Kurama smirked and looked towards Chomiya and nodded. Chomiya nodded back and shot a high-pressure water cannon at Shukaku, who was blasted into the lake screaming. Now hold still Shukaku, this will only be unpleasant if you make it so. Shukaku glared at Chomiya. Easy for you to say, you're not made out of sand. Naruto had been listening to the Baijuya currently arguing in his subconscious while he tried hard not to burst out laughing at Shukaku's fate. Naruto decided to head to the barracks to get ready for his date. After showering and dressing in his normal attire, which no one could really blame him for wearing, considering it was the nicest clothes he had at the moment, Naruto had been about to knock on the door to the women's dorm when it opened to reveal Hazel in a grey dress that she had been saving for her first official date, with a smile on her face. Naruto couldn't help but gawk at how different she looked without her centurion armor. The only word that he could think of to describe what he saw slipped from his mouth: beautiful. Naruto hadn't realized he had said that aloud until he noticed the raging blush on Hazel's face. Hazel recovered but still had a dust of pink when she returned his compliment. You look handsome as always, Naruto. Naruto had a blush of his own before offering her his arm, which she gladly locked with hers. Naruto had led her to a place he had seen her glance at a couple times while they used to walk around. The place was called the Imperial Lotus. Naruto led her inside up to the reception counter. Uzumaki reservation, table for two. The lady at the reception counter skimmed through a book and looked back to him. Here you are, allow me to take you to your seat. The lady led the two through the crowded establishment to the back of the building. Once seated, Hazel couldn't help but ask, how did you manage to get in here? Not only is it nearly impossible to book a reservation at this place, but you would need to be earning at least 30 drachma every week to be able to get in, not to mention how expensive the food is. Naruto nervously chuckled at her. I did a big job for the owner who didn't have enough on him at the time to pay me, so he said he would hold a reservation and charge me a big discount for the help he needed with the massive infestation of rats and snakes that somehow managed to get in their basement. Hazel sighed with relief. She had thought he had robbed someone. Well, it's only the most expensive restaurant in New Rome. It is really a great place to come on a first date. Hazel blushed as she looked away from him. How old are you anyway, Naruto? Naruto smiled at her. I turned 18 before I arrived, although I legally became an adult when I left the academy as a genin when I was 13. Hazel smiled. So tell me, the elemental nations, what were they like? Naruto smiled. It was beautiful. Nature was the supreme power in my world. My sage mode is weaker in this world due to the exceptional lack of natural energy. But it wasn't always peaceful. As a matter of fact, most shinobi would be lucky if they only lived through one war. War was always a constant threat. No one trusted anyone. There were spies in the major villages almost all the time, but that all changed after the last war. Hazel looked at him curiously. What happened that made this war so different? Naruto looked down and subconsciously grabbed his chest where his heart was, which Hazel picked up on. The war was for me. As I said when we first met, the Baijua were seen as weapons of war. Well, one group of S-class criminals who called themselves Akatsuki, decided to use them as a means to reach a false peace, a world where no one died, where we could have everything we could ever want would have easily been ours. Hazel smiled at the thought and commented, it sounds like a dream come true. Naruto looked up at her. That's exactly what it was, a dream we couldn't wake up from, a dream where so many people I knew fought to make sure didn't happen. I lost so many friends in that bloody war. I saw their life leave their eyes while I could only watch as they died. Hazel felt how hard it was for him to talk about, so placed her hand on the table. I can't say I understand the way you feel, Naruto, because I'd be lying if I said I did, but just know that people are here to help you. You don't have to carry the burden alone. Naruto smiled. Thanks, Hazel-chan, I needed that. Hazel looked at him questioningly and asked, Chan? Naruto blushed and realized what he said. Again Hazel didn't miss a beat as she noticed his blush. What was with the suffix Naruto? What does it mean? Naruto looked away with his blush deepening, about to respond but was saved by the waiter bringing them their food. Hazel lost her train of thought and dug into the food with enough restraint to say she was eating normally. After the two finished, Naruto paid the bill and walked out with Hazel hugging his arm. Thanks for the meal, Naruto, I had fun tonight. Naruto smirked down at her, which caused her to raise a brow. Who said our night was over? I still have one thing that my friends suggested, and I hope you like it. Hazel looked at him curious as he led her out of the gates of New Rome and into the woods. Hazel's imagination started to wander and come up with multiple reasons he could be bringing her so far out here, up until they reached the end of the protective barrier. Naruto let go of her and walked forward only to turn to her with a smile. Are you ready, Hazel? Hazel wanted to panic because of the thought making her blush, but was silenced as Naruto started to glow. Naruto was wrapped in a golden energy with the effect of a flaming cloak. Hazel just stared at him, mesmerized at the beautiful golden glow. Naruto smiled at her. I'm not finished yet. Before she could ask what he meant, Naruto started to stop glowing and she watched as his skin grew pale, and a black staff grew out of his palm. Naruto looked at her with a smile. This is my Sage of Six Paths form, or Rakudo Sennin mode. Naruto let his staff disappear as he walked close to Hazel and wrapped her in a hug as he whispered into her ear, It allows me to do this. Naruto tightened his grip on Hazel just enough for him to be confident she wouldn't fall, and shot upward, getting a shriek of surprise from Hazel, who wrapped her arms around him to make sure she didn't fall. But when she opened her eyes, she was captivated by the sight stretched out before her. The lights of New Rome, flickering out one by one as the moon rose in over the ocean, the water rippling through the moon's reflection, the Senate house lit up with light, the stars visible above them. She looked to the person responsible for this amazing sensation and couldn't stop that tear of joy she knew streaked down her cheek. It's beautiful. He smiled at her. He then looked at the view himself, only to be pulled back to look at Hazel. Before he could question her, he was silenced by the pair of lips that locked onto his. His eyes widened in surprise at the warmth. Hazel pulled back after a few moments of him staying there stiff. Sorry, I just... That was as far as she got as Naruto wrapped his left arm tighter around her while raising his right hand, lifts her chin and plants a kiss on her lips, causing her to catch her breath, but eventually she relaxed into it while wrapping her arms around his neck to pull him in deeper. The two just stay in put, lost in the kiss until the need to breathe one out and the separated with a gasp for air. Hazel places her hand on his whisker marks and rubs them, earning her a sound of what sounds like purring in the back of his throat, causing her to throw her head back laughing. Naruto flies them back to the barracks without being seen and drops Rakudo Senin mode. Hazel pecked his lips again, saying, "Thank you for tonight, Naruto. This is by far the best night I've ever had." Naruto smiled and said, "You're welcome, I hope to go out again sometime." Ever since their date, Hazel and Naruto had grown even closer. They were always together. Frank was incredibly jealous of Naruto for the attention he was getting from Hazel. It had been a few weeks since their first date and had decided to go out once every weekend. Hazel was walking hand in hand with Naruto around the Tiber. "So what are we going to do today, Naruto?" Naruto placed his chin in his hand "Well, we could go see that new movie playing in town. You said you had wanted to go see it." Hazel's eyes lit up and smiled brightly at Naruto. "You mean The King of Sparta with Tristan McLean?" Naruto smiled down at his girlfriend and nodded, receiving a squeal of excitement from Hazel and a kiss on the cheek. "You're the best, I hope you know that, Naruto." Naruto smiled at her praise. "I live to please." Hazel lost the excitement in her eyes as she seen 4 black specks racing down the hill towards them. One was a teen with ocean blue eyes and black hair carrying an elderly woman. The other 3 were snake-like beings, easily gorgons. They had reptile scales, and long flowing hair with dangerously long sharp nails. Naruto looked to Hazel with a serious look. "Stay here, I'll go help him out." Hazel looked at Naruto worriedly. "Be careful, Naruto." Naruto smiled, showing his teeth, and disappeared in a blur. By the time he had reached the fight, the teen was lying on the shore of the Tiber with the old lady smiling at him. "So you were the child of prophecy. I must say the rumors I heard of you were nothing short of incredible. It takes much to defeat a god." Naruto drew his sword and held it in a reverse grip. "Another god, huh?" The kid must be new to not have noticed the overwhelming power rolling off you. "Can't understand why the Gorgons couldn't see it." The woman smiled at him. "Senses sharper than any dagger, not exaggerated. Excellent, you will be quite useful in the near future." Naruto pointed his blade at the goddess. "I don't let fate carry me through life. As you know, I'm not from this world, therefore in theory, the gods of fate are unable to bind me to their will." The goddess smiled at him. "Would you be willing to test your theory? They bind the very life force of every being in existence. If you are wrong, then you may mysteriously die of a heart attack in your sleep." Naruto smirked at her. "Always have. I see no reason to stop tempting fate now." The goddess smiled at him. You truly were one of my best ideas. I am happy I sent Hestia to collect you. Naruto glared at the goddess. I am here to clean up my mess. I heard about what you gods did to Gaia, and you wonder why she wakes. I may see your point of view. Kronos' death may have been justified for him eating you and your siblings, but it was cruel for him to do what he did. Personally, I don't care what happens to you gods, but I do care what happens to the innocent people that will be caught in the crossfire of your war. The goddess sighed and looked at him. I can see why you hate us, but I have risked my existence to help the mortals. Naruto's glare never left his face. That may be, but it does not excuse you and your fellow gods from meddling in the lives of the mortals since ancient times. Face it, gods are greedy and selfish. I see little difference between you gods and Kaguya. The goddess started to glare at him. We may have entertained ourselves for the past millennia using the mortals, but our influence allowed them to achieve what they have today. Naruto was growing angry, and what have they achieved? Where I'm from, we fought in 4 great wars, but here, they have only fought 3 and the death count has already far exceeded our own, and they were started by the Romans and Greeks, the children of the gods. No matter how much good you think you do, it will never be enough to replace the hundreds of millions of lives your interference in the mortals' world has caused. The goddess' glare seemed to dim at his words. Then how do you see us making up for what we've done? Naruto's eyes soften. You can't, but it doesn't mean you can't try. You can start by fixing your past wrongs. I've read stories of Calypso, set her free. Zeus wronged her for something her father had done. It doesn't mean she is to suffer like her father. The goddess lost her glare and offered a small smile. I can see you offer more potential to help us gods regain ourselves than I originally had hoped. I can see how our influence has allowed such tragedy to occur. I will try to repent for our mistakes. Naruto smiled at her. Which goddess are you anyway? I'm only able to tell you're a god, just not which one. The goddess smiled. Juno, goddess of marriage. I can see you will have an admirable home life in the future, if you manage to survive this. Junk disappeared in a flash of golden light. Leaving Naruto with the unconscious teen, Naruto picked him up and carried him over his shoulder to the infirmary. Naruto hadn't left the kid's side all day, waiting for him to wake up. When Naruto heard a groan from next to him, Naruto looked over to see the kid stirring. The kid looked at Naruto seemingly confused. Where am I? Naruto looked at the teen seriously. You are in the infirmary in New Rome. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I found you lying on the shores of the river. The teen nodded while still lying down. I can't remember very much before I woke up, but my name is Percy, Percy Jackson. Naruto smiled. Well Percy, since you swam through the Tiber, you need to know you lost your blessing of Achilles, so you are now vulnerable to be hurt. Percy looked at him confused. Blessing of Achilles. Naruto nodded and said, you would need to bathe in the river Styx in the underworld to receive such a gift. The last person to gain it was Achilles himself. Which means, you're either lying about not being able to remember, or someone has wiped your memories. Percy looked down at his hands and sighed. Wiped. Annabeth. Naruto looked at Percy and felt sorry for the kid. He could tell when people were lying, and this poor confused kid wasn't lying. Hey Percy, it's fine. I've had my head smashed into stuff so often I've had memory loss enough times to be able to write a novel on the subject. Your memories will return if you give them time. Now come on, it's tradition to introduce a newcomer to the praetor. Percy just nodded sadly and got up shakily. Naruto wrapped Percy's arm around his shoulder to support him as they walked. Percy looked at Naruto. So who is this praetor? Naruto smiled ahead. She's a good friend, and an even greater person. Percy saw the admiration in Naruto's eyes and decided to comment, "From the look in your eye, I'd say she's great in bed too." Expecting a laugh from the blonde but surprised by the irritated glare he was getting, "Reina is a great person, but I already have a good relationship with my girlfriend. I understand you didn't know, but now that you do, I suggest you don't say something like that again, especially around Reina or my girlfriend." Percy started to sweat looking at the heated glare he was getting and quickly said, sorry, won't happen again." Naruto smiled at him and said, "Good, but take my advice, if Reina heard something like that she would send her mechanical dogs to neuter you the most painful way possible. Fair warning, their teeth are poisonous to our kind, so it'll hurt a lot worse." Percy subconsciously placed a hand over them to protect themselves, causing Naruto to burst out laughing. "Take it easy, newbie, she won't go that far unless she hears you, so again, don't say it." Percy nodded quickly before entering the Senate. Reina grew a smile when she saw Naruto walked in. Percy, "Hey Naruto, is this the kid you found on the shore?" Naruto nodded. "Yeah, he says he can't remember much else but his name." I couldn't sense he was lying, but he feels incredibly powerful. My guess is this is the work of the gods. If my hunch is right, then he's already been claimed. Reina furrowed her eyebrows. Strange, usually a demigod isn't claimed until after they arrive here. It raises many questions and leaves no answers. "My name is Reina, and I am the praetor, what's yours?" Percy looked at her and gave a small smile. "I'm Percy Jackson." Reina nodded and looked back to Naruto. "I'll leave him under your command until we can get an idea who his parents is." Dismissed. Naruto nodded and walked Percy to the cohort's barracks. "Happy to have you with us, Percy, but when you're able to move you're gonna wish you had broke your legs." Percy starts to sweat at the sadistic smile plastered on Naruto's face and really didn't want to know why but asked anyway, "Why?" Naruto's smile grew as he glanced over at him. "Because I push my subordinates past their mortal limits and beyond. You'll see what I mean from the demonstration your new brothers and sisters will give." Percy gulped nervously and was already starting to wish he was still asleep. When the two reached the barracks, Naruto was greeted by Hazel, who threw her arms around his neck and pulled him into a kiss which he gladly returned with his free hand. "Welcome back, Naruto, is this the kid?" Naruto nodded. "Hazel, this is Percy Jackson." "Percy, this is my girlfriend Hazel, daughter of Pluto, or Hades for the Greek mind." Percy smiled and offered his hand, which she took and nearly crushed Percy's hand in the shake, causing Percy to flinch in pain. "Strong handshake, is everyone here like her?" Naruto laughed while Hazel giggled. "Nope, those are just the results of the training regime you're going to be performing soon." Hazel glared at him in mock horror. "But Naruto, he's just a boy. You are going to break him in his first week." Naruto laughed at her antics before slowing to a chuckle. "Well, if he can't handle it, he could always practice the Roman ways of combat." Percy could see the pitying looks from the windows. It seems they had already guessed that Percy was joining the 5th cohort. Frank came out the door with the pity look and placed his hand on Percy's shoulder. "Name's Frank. Before you go into training, no, he doesn't force the training, but it would be good for you, if you survive it." Percy could almost swear he heard his muscles screaming already. Naruto laughed heartily and looked at Frank. "Come on Frank, don't scare the poor kid, he won't die from the training, kids can do it." Frank glared at him. "Kids who practically spent every day since they were born training. You're a prime example, mister. I can crush mountains." Naruto growled at him with a glare. "It was an accident. You all wouldn't leave me alone until I showed you all my Rasen Shuriken." Frank returned the glare. "Dude, if it was an accident it only proves his situation is all the more hopeless. Frank ended by pointing at Percy, who was now officially terrified of the training Naruto will put him through. Naruto scowled. Frank, you just volunteered to do the demonstration of Course 6. Frank paled and tried to run, but was stopped by Naruto grabbing his collar. Where do you think you're going, my oh so precious volunteer? Frank got on his hands and knees blubbering prayers to any god that would listen while Naruto pulled Frank outside, leaving Percy sitting down with his back to a wall as he watched Naruto put a piece of paper on Frank's back. Percy looked to Hazel and asked, "What's so bad about Course 6? Hazel was almost concerned for her friend but knew that Frank had become rebellious ever since Naruto and her started dating. She understood that what Frank was doing would get everyone killed if he did it on an actual quest or in war, so she let Naruto do it. Hazel looked to Percy. Course 6 is the hardest level that normal demigods can't finish. There are 12 courses, but only Naruto has been able to finish them all. Not just because he created them, no, he wanted to make them as hard on him as possible. But there was a limit to how far he could take it before it would become ineffective. Naruto even placed a reward for anyone able to make it past a course. 6 and above are incredible rewards like stuff from his home, weapons, shirts, advice, knowledge. It was all there. But so far, only Naruto can pass any of them above 6. Percy looked to Frank, who was just sitting there, so decided to comment, if this is a course then why is Frank just sitting there? Hazel became serious as she said, because it's a technique from his home. It places the person who is holding the seal in a part of Naruto's battles as a kid up until he left a couple months ago. The illusions are incredibly effective in showing you just where you are when compared to Naruto. Right now Frank is in the Chunin exam's illusion. The illusion imbues the person wearing the seal with Naruto's knowledge of the situation, and his emotions towards the people in the illusion. It's almost like you are reliving his experiences. Percy looked on in wonder as Frank arched his back and screamed in agony, causing the seal on his back to burn away. Frank came out of the illusion and glared daggers at Naruto. Sometimes I really hate you. Naruto smiled at Frank. You're welcome, now move so I can introduce Percy to Zabuza. Frank glanced worriedly at Percy but moved away. Naruto smiled at Percy. Hey Percy, you ready to go? This is only level 1, so a civilian could do it. Percy looked nervous but walked over, not even realizing he got his strength back. Before Percy sat down, Naruto grabbed his shoulder. Be warned, time will pass incredibly quickly in the illusion. You will live through all of my past experiences, as well as my pain, but you will be able to interact with the world around you just like I do. You will be going with my old team on my first major mission with my team. They will interact with you. You will be put in my shoes, all of your abilities will carry over to the illusion. Naruto and Hazel continued to watch over Percy for the next hour until his eyes snapped open with an agonizing scream. They both watched as the seal on Percy's back smoldered to ash. Naruto pat Percy on the back as sweat rolled down his face while he panted deeply before looking at Naruto. How did you survive that hell? Naruto smirked at him before saying, if that's all it's gonna take to get you to ask that, then hope and pray to your parent that you never reach course 11 or 12. That is something I'm still having nightmares about. The thought of something being more terrifying than a psycho using mist to silently kill off his opponents is something to be feared. And if normal civilians could do this, then exactly how weak is he? Naruto noticed the solemn look on Percy before smiling at him. Percy, the reason I survived that was because of my feelings towards my friends. I desired to protect them, even if it meant my life. Those were just illusions. I think you know that, so you limit your potential because you know they aren't real. when thrust into a life or death situation I'm sure you'll come out on top. Percy grew a smile at Naruto's words before saying, "Thanks man, I was wondering if there was any way to become faster, those guys were moving too fast for me to track." Naruto gave Percy a sadistic smile before saying, "Prepare yourself Percy Jackson, when I'm done with you, your mere presence will send fear through an army of Cyclops." Percy wanted to run from the look he was getting from Naruto but kept still too afraid to move. Naruto tossed Percy some pieces of paper earning a confused look from Percy. "Put them on your wrists, it's the same concept as the seal I used for the illusion, just much more physical based." Percy did as he was told and immediately felt the effects. His arms felt like they were stuffed with rocks, making it 10 times harder to move. Percy looked to Naruto for an explanation. "They're seals man, if you know your stuff you could blow the living hell out of everything, as well as hold supplies in without adding weight and saving a good amount of room for other stuff." Percy smiled at him and nodded. "I hope this doesn't mean I'm gonna blow up." Naruto laughed at the comment but walked away, leaving a very afraid Percy behind, not realizing Naruto took it as a joke when it was a serious question. Naruto spent the remainder of the day spending time with Hazel. The two went into the clearing they had found the night of their first date and sat with their backs against a tree with Hazel leaning her head on Naruto's shoulder. The two sat in silence for a while, just enjoying each other's presence before Hazel broke the silence. "Hey Naruto." Naruto looked at Hazel. "Yes Hazel-chan." Hazel still didn't know what the suffix meant but continued, "After this whole mess with Gaia is over, what will we do? I'm sure you would want to go back home, and I want to be with you." Naruto saw how hurt Hazel felt about the thought of him leaving her, so Naruto wrapped his arms around her and pulled her onto his lap, much to the darker girl's embarrassment. "It all depends, what happens between now and then, what happens when with us right now, and what happens before I leave. But, if I'm honest with myself, I find myself wanting you to come with me. There aren't monsters to hunt down demigods in my world, a new era of peace has come. And besides, I might not be able to go back, the gods like to mess with people's lives, and from how well my life started, they might just consider making me immortal, just to make sure I am here to entertain them for all of eternity." Naruto shivered at the thought. Hazel smiled at him before wrapping her arms around his neck in a deep hug. "Thanks Naruto, I guess that we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. It does seem too early to make assumptions that the gods would be willing to send you home." Naruto rubbed up and down Hazel's back, causing her to shiver at his touch before he wrapped his arms around her lower back and pulled her in further before kissing her, which escalated quickly to Naruto exploring Hazel's mouth with his tongue, which Hazel moaned and melted into. The two were pulled from their exploration by Percy, who snapped a twig. Percy blushed deep crimson when he saw Hazel sit atop Naruto. Sorry, I'll come back another time, sorry for interrupting." Hazel glared at Percy but stopped when Naruto called him back. "What's up? New soldiers aren't usually allowed out here without an escort unless it's important." Percy lost his blush and saluted mockingly. "I have discovered I heal by stepping into water. I discovered this fact when I was sparring with Frank. He managed to cut me and caused me to fall into the river. The water moved to my gash and healed it in a matter of seconds." Naruto looked positively curious. Usually, people from this world don't have a healing factor as good as mine. Hazel, I need to examine this with Kurama, this may lead to who his parent is." Hazel sighed in disappointment but got off of him and let him stand. "Okay, Percy, what I'm about to do is strictly between us, only Reina, Hazel, me, and you know of the existence of what I'm about to do. If Octavian caught wind of this it would seriously hurt my time with Hazel." Percy nodded in understanding but was completely shocked when Naruto was enveloped in his nine tails chakra. It only got weirder when Naruto started talking. "Hey Kurama, you know what we need to do, right?" Naruto continued to talk to himself, getting a look of worry from Percy while Hazel just tried to decipher the conversation with what Naruto was saying. When Naruto finally nodded, Naruto walked up to Percy and placed a hand on his shoulder. Percy was filled with warmth as the hand Naruto had on his shoulder emitted a powerful glow. When the glow died down, Naruto looked surprised with mild disbelief written on his face. When Hazel noticed, she gained a worried look on her face before asking, "What's wrong, Naruto? It's nothing bad, is it?" Naruto smiled at her before turning serious back towards Percy. "Kurama is telling me your blood has traces of salt in it. Blood is a mixture of chemicals and water. If there's salt in your blood, the only god I know that rules the ocean is Neptune, or Poseidon for the Greek mind." Hazel was utterly shocked at what Naruto had said. "Wait, are you saying?" Naruto nodded and turned to Percy. "It's incredibly rare. As a matter of fact, the only other person I know who is a child of Pluto, Neptune, and Jupiter is Hazel. She's a daughter of Pluto." "Percy, it seems you're a son of Neptune." Percy was shocked into silence, which is hard to do, but eventually he started to speak. "My dad, I is god of the sea." Naruto nodded and said, "It seems so. We should tell Reina, she would want to hear this." Nodding at Naruto, Percy and Hazel followed Naruto to the Senate to face Reina. Unknown cave. A loud rumbling sigh shakes the dark area before the voice of Gaia booms to life. "Another child of those infuriating gods. It seems that I will need Naruto if I'm going to win, but what is this feeling I get when I'm around him? It almost hurts. It reminds me of when me and Uranus had first started seeing each other. It was such a wonderful feeling. But I can't, how could I? He's trying to stop me from taking vengeance on those who hurt my children." Gaia sighed in frustration. "Why now? Why after so long? I find myself falling for someone." The end. Hope you all enjoyed. Goodbye.